programs that are geared towards what they call discipleship. Again, generally that means knowledge acquisition, which is not what we're talking about. Can biblical discipleship be achieved through church events and programs in the church's hope to serve the spiritual needs? I would say no, you don't want to do that. You don't want an institution raising your children. Here's the problem with programs and events. They're not what Jesus did with the 12. He's the master discipler. He didn't send them to a program or to an event. He was the discipler. He didn't send them to rabbinical school. He was the rabbinical school. It was relational from the very beginning and meant to be that way within the context of the local church, but done body on body relationally. So the problem is what Jesus did with the 12 is what we want, a quantity of relationship. For them, it was 3 years of basically every day with Jesus, and then he left. And he gave them the Holy Spirit, which we have, and he said, go and do likewise. So the problem is it's not a program and an event, it's a relationship. And number two, here's another problem. We're infatuated with measurables. We just think numbers are the way to go. You and I talked about this earlier about converts. So there's this desire to reach the world fast and furious. And the problem is if you do things fast, you fail to take care of the fundamentals.
Wow.
It'd be like a parent saying this, I want to have kids. I love kids. No, I love kids. And you probably love kids. And the more kids, the better. But the problem is if we develop kids, we birth them, and you don't raise them, they get twisted by life. And so we are so infatuated with conversions. We keep track of conversions. We've lost sight completely of the parable of the seeds. Those seeds in Matthew were an example of somebody being born again. The first seed got snatched immediately. That's what happens often with conversions. They come and they raise their hand, or they come up front, they cry, they weep. They're sincere completely. But nobody follows up, and then they have to go back to an abusive home or abusive community or whatever. And they're snatched. The second seed doesn't have any roots. Nobody walked with him to develop his root system, and so he dies away. That's bad. The third seed gets choked by the worries of the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life. The third seed was a bad seed. True conversion, it appeared. Born again seed, it appears. 3 of the 4 seeds don't even stay in the faith. Wow. Our goal is that people walk with God for a lifetime. That's hard. Finish strong. That's harder still. Reproduce. That's harder still. And continue to do it till multiplication occurs. That only happens in the context of a parental relationship with spiritual mentors like uncles and aunts and fathers and mothers like a discipler. And thus, our infatuation with measurables actually brings us short-term growth with no long-term impact. There's not any sustainability to that. And so the only answer is to parent the costly way, disciple biblically, parent slowly, stay engaged, and supervise their parenting so that there can be continuation.
Wow. That's so deep, man. In Nigeria, we say something like, you are shaking tables. You just shook tables by that response that you gave, that it's not about events and program. It's live on live, not fixated on numbers, but just pouring into people and letting them really understand what it means to be devoted followers of Jesus Christ. So
let me give you a quick example.
Okay.
Because it'll put, I think you have seen a picture of what's called the multiplication table. Is that correct? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yes. So I think you speak about that.
Let me speak about that. So if one person, this is an example of how the math of discipleship works. When Jesus knew that 2,000 years after he lived, that there'd be 8 billion people on the planet, his plan to reach those 8 billion was to get 12 unschooled ordinary guys and invest in them over time in a quantity of relationship, meaning lots of interactions over 3 years, was his plan. He didn't need money. He didn't need technology. He didn't need anything other than willing, available, surrendered humans that were willing to meet and build relation with other humans and teach them to do likewise. So his formula to reach 8 billion was 12 12 housewives, 12 accountants, and a tax collector, and a fisherman, and a teacher, and a businesswoman. And this was his plan, because what happened, and this is the math, is if one person meets with one person, just one person a year, which frankly most people can do more than that, if they just met one person a year and walked with them as they walked with God and taught them how to do likewise, and if in the second year I met with another person and you met with another person, and if the third year I met with another person and the person I met with the first year meets with another, if we double ourselves every year, then after 30 years of a housewife or a teacher or a businesswoman or a whatever, an unschooled ordinary man or woman, if we just meet with one person a year and teach them to do likewise, after 30 years, you touch 1 billion people deeply. And in 33 years, you teach 8 billion, you reach 8 billion people, because one doubled 30 times is 1 billion.
So
and
you're talking multiplication, not addition. Right? So
addition is never going to work. Addition won't work. Yeah.
So that brings us to the Great Commission. So I think this is one of the ways that we can actually achieve the Great Commission. So the question is, can the Great Commission be fulfilled in a lifetime without multiplication, pathway to discipleship? How can we really achieve or fulfill the Great Commission using this multiplication type pathway to discipleship?
Well, it's a math problem.
In very practical way.
It's a math problem. It's super simple. You meet with one person a year and teach them how to do likewise. And if you do that 30 years, you teach 1 billion. And if you do it 33 years, you reach 8 billion. That's the math of discipleship. That's why God wasn't freaked about having no money, no technology. He didn't try to have big events. He just needed to meet with the 12 and teach them to meet with somebody's also, and teach them how to meet somebody also. That's the math of discipling biblically.
Wow.
You can't deny the math that one doubled 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. If you do that 30 times, it is 1 billion people. And if you do it 33 times. So, I don't know how old you are, but if somebody, hang on, my daughter's kind of really excited to talk to me here, but I'll keep talking. So if somebody is in their 20s or they're 10, if they just stay at this for 30 years, they themselves, out of Lagos or some village in Nigeria or in some rural community in California or Belgium or in Pakistan, if they just reproduced themselves and taught others to do likewise, in 30 years they'd touch 1 billion people. Because the Lord is going to multiply, because that's his will, and he'll do it.
So, this is mind-blowing for me, just hearing about what he just shared.